The bullet tore through Tae-jun's chest before he even registered the sound of the gunshot. One moment he was diving toward his son, arms outstretched to shield Kai's small body from the weapon in Kwon Sang-woo's trembling hand. The next, he was on the cold warehouse floor, blood spreading across his white shirt like spilled wine, watching Ivy's face contort in a scream he couldn't hear over the ringing in his ears. His last thought before darkness claimed him was simple. I kept my promise. I showed up. But to understand how Park Tae-jun ended up dying for a woman he'd abandoned and a son he'd never met, we need to go back. Back to 3 weeks earlier, to a rain-soaked evening in Itaewon, and a glimpse through a car window that shattered everything he thought he knew about sacrifice, power, and love. Before we continue, can I ask you a question? Where in the world are you watching from? Comment below because we'd love to know how far these stories travel. Welcome to Afro Soul Stories TV Besties. If you're already hooked, kindly show your encouragement by hitting the like and subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you to those who already subscribed before now. You inspired me to keep creating more videos like this. Now let's get back to the story. The leather seat of the Mercedes was cold against Tae-jun's back as his driver navigated through Seoul's evening traffic. Rain hammered the windows, turning the neon lights of Itaewon into blurred streaks of color. He barely noticed. His attention was locked on the contract in his hands. His engagement contract to Choi Min-ji, daughter of one of Korea's most powerful political families. The marriage was scheduled for 6 weeks from now. A business arrangement. The Choi family needed the Park family's reach and resources. The Park family needed political legitimacy and protection. Love had nothing to do with it. Love, his father had made abundantly clear, was a liability in their world. Tae-jun had learned that lesson 18 months ago when he'd walked away from the only woman who'd ever made him feel human. The car slowed to a stop at a red light near the main intersection. Tae-jun looked up from the contract, his eyes automatically scanning the street. Old habits. In his line of work, you never stopped watching. That's when he saw her. Ivy Carter was crossing the street, struggling with a stroller that kept catching on the uneven pavement. The rain had plastered her black hair against her brown skin, and even from a distance, Tae-jun could see the exhaustion in the way she moved. She was thinner than he remembered, her movements less graceful, more desperate. But it was unmistakably her. The woman he'd convinced himself he was protecting by disappearing from her life, and she was pushing a stroller. The contract slipped from Tae-jun's fingers. His hand shot forward, gripping the driver's headrest so hard his knuckles went white. "Stop the car!" "Sir, the light is about to change." "I said stop the car!" But it was too late. The light turned green and traffic surged forward, carrying them away. Tae-jun twisted in his seat, watching through the rear window as Ivy reached the opposite sidewalk. She bent down to adjust something in the stroller, and that's when Tae-jun saw it. A baby. Maybe 10 months old, bundled in a blue blanket, one tiny fist waving in the air. The math was simple, brutal. 18 months since he'd left her. 10 months since that baby was born. Which meant she'd been pregnant when he disappeared, and he'd never known. Tae-jun's vision tunneled. The sounds of the city faded to white noise. His carefully constructed world, built on control and calculated decisions, cracked down the middle. "Turn around," he said quietly. The driver hesitated. "Sir, you have a meeting with your father in 20 minutes. Turn. Around." They circled back, but by the time they reached the intersection again, Ivy was gone. Vanished into the maze of Itaewon's back streets like she'd never been there at all. Tae-jun sat in the idling car, rain drumming on the roof, feeling something he hadn't experienced in years. Panic. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Jin-ho answered on the first ring. "Yes, sir? I need you to find someone. Tonight. I don't care what it takes or how many people you have to mobilize." Tae-jun's voice was steady, but his hand trembled slightly. Ivy Carter. American. Black. 28 years old. She was a nurse at Seoul Medical Center before. Find out where she lives now, where she works, everything. There was a pause on the other end. Jin-ho had been Tae-jun's right hand for 8 years. He knew exactly who Ivy Carter was. Sir, with respect, is this wise? Your engagement? I don't care about the engagement. I need to know if that child is mine. And if he is, Tae-jun closed his eyes, then I've made the biggest mistake of my life. By midnight, Jin-ho had answers. Tae-jun sat in his office in the Park family compound, the city lights of Seoul spread below him like a carpet of broken stars. She lives in Gwanak-gu, Jin-ho said, his voice carefully neutral as he placed a folder on the desk. 3rd floor of a building that should have been condemned 5 years ago. She works night shifts at a small clinic near Seoul National University. The pay is minimal. According to bank records, she's 3 months behind on rent. Tae-jun's jaw tightened. Gwanak-gu, one of Seoul's poorest districts. While he'd been living in luxury, making deals worth millions, she'd been struggling to keep a roof over her head. The child? He asked. Jin-ho opened the folder and slid a photograph across the desk. Tae-jun's hand shook as he picked it up. The image showed Ivy walking down a street, the stroller in front of her. But this photo was clearer than his glimpse through the rain-streaked window. He could see the baby's face now. Dark eyes. His eyes. The same slight cleft in the chin that Tae-jun saw every morning in the mirror. His name is Kai, Jin-ho continued. Born 10 months ago at Seoul National University Hospital, premature by 6 weeks. He spent 3 weeks in the NICU. She almost died during the delivery. Complications from preeclampsia. The photograph slipped from Tae-jun's fingers. She almost died. The medical bills nearly bankrupted her. She's still paying them off. Tae-jun stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. He walked to the window, pressing his palm against the cold glass. She tried to contact me, he said. It wasn't a question. The silence behind him was answer enough. Tae-jun turned slowly. Jin-ho's face was carefully blank, but something flickered in his eyes. Guilt. How many times, Jin-ho? Sir, how many times did she try to reach me? Jin-ho's shoulders sagged slightly. 47 times, starting 3 months into her pregnancy and continuing until 2 weeks after the child was born. 47. Tae-jun felt the number like a physical blow. And you never told me. No, sir. Why? The word came out barely above a whisper. Jin-ho met his eyes steadily. Because Kwon Sang-woo's men were still actively trying to kill you. Because we intercepted 3 separate assassination attempts in those months. Because if word had gotten out that you had a pregnant girlfriend, they would have gone after her with everything they had. He paused. I made a choice, sir. I chose your life over her feelings. Tae-jun wanted to rage, wanted to overturn the desk, fire Jin-ho on the spot, do something to match the chaos he felt inside, but Jin-ho was right. That was the worst part. In their world, sentiment got you killed. Weakness was an invitation for your enemies to strike. Tae-jun had left Ivy to protect her, and Jin-ho had kept her away for the same reason. But none of that changed the fundamental truth. Tae-jun had a son who was growing up in poverty while his father lived in luxury, a son who didn't know his father existed. I want security on her, Tae-jun said finally. 24/7, best team we have. But they're to keep their distance. Understood? Understood. And the engagement? Tae-jun looked at the photograph on his desk, at Ivy's face older and harder than he remembered, at his son's tiny features. That's not your concern. The next morning, Tae-jun called off his engagement to Choi Min-ji. He did it in person at a quiet cafe in Gangnam, because despite everything, she deserved that much respect. Min-ji took the news with surprising composure, her hands wrapped around a cup of green tea that had long since gone cold. Is it because of someone else? She asked quietly. Tae-jun didn't lie to her. Yes. Do you love her? I never stopped. Minji nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. You know this will cause problems. For both our families. I know. And you're doing it anyway. I have to. She was quiet for a long moment, studying his face. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. It was sad but genuine. I hope she knows how lucky she is, Minji said. Not many men in our world choose love over duty. I'm not choosing love over duty, Taejun replied. I'm choosing to do my duty to the people who actually matter. My son, the woman I love. Minji reached across the table and squeezed his hand once. Be happy, Taejun, and be careful. My family won't take this well. Neither will yours. She was right. The fallout was immediate and brutal. The Choi family cut all business ties with the Park family within 24 hours. Political protections that had taken years to build evaporated overnight. Taejun's father summoned him to his office, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. Do you have any idea what you've done? Park Dae-sung's voice was low and dangerous. The Choi alliance was our shield against Kwon Sang-woo and every other vulture circling this family. You've left us exposed. I couldn't marry her. Why? Because of some American woman. His father's lip curled with disgust. I had her investigated the moment you started seeing her. A nurse. From Atlanta. Nothing special. Nothing worth throwing away an alliance for. She's the mother of my child. The words fell like stones into still water. His father's expression went from fury to ice-cold calculation in an instant. You got her pregnant? 18 months ago, I didn't know until yesterday. Where is this child now? With his mother, in Gwanak-gu. And you're sure it's yours? Taejun's hands clenched into fists. He has my eyes, my chin. He's mine. His father was quiet for a long moment, then crossed to the window overlooking the compound's gardens. When he spoke again, his voice was different, colder. Bring them here. If the child is truly yours, he's Park blood. We protect our own. He turned back to face Taejun. But understand this. That woman will never be accepted by this family. She's foreign. She has no connections, no status, no breeding. The family will tolerate her for the child's sake, but she will never be one of us. That's not your decision to make, isn't it? His father's smile was thin and cruel. You think you can just walk away from this life, from this family? You're Park Tae-jun, heir to everything I've built. You can play house with your American nurse if you want, but you'll do it under my roof, under my rules, and she will know her place. Taejun left his father's office with rage burning in his chest. But beneath the anger was something else. Fear. Because his father was right about one thing. They were exposed now. And Kwon Sang-woo would hear about the broken engagement within hours. He found Ivy 3 days later at the clinic where she worked. He'd spent those days gathering information, building his courage, trying to figure out what the hell he was going to say. Nothing felt adequate. The clinic was in a run-down part of Gwanak-gu, sandwiched between a convenience store and a pojangmatcha that smelled of soju and grilled meat. Taejun had dressed down for this, wearing just jeans and a black coat, trying to look like someone who belonged in this neighborhood. He pushed through the clinic's door just as Ivy emerged from a back room, a medical chart in her hands. She looked up at the sound of the bell, and for a moment they just stared at each other. She looked different, thinner. There were shadows under her eyes that hadn't been there 18 months ago. But she was still beautiful, still the woman who'd made him laugh for the first time in years. The medical chart slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, neither of them moved. Then Ivy's face transformed. Shock melted into recognition. Recognition hardened into fury. She crossed the small waiting room in 5 strides and slapped him across the face. Hard. The crack echoed off the walls. An elderly patient in the corner gasped. You have 30 seconds, Ivy said, her voice shaking with barely controlled rage. 30 seconds to explain why you're here before I call security. Taejun's cheek burned, but he didn't touch it. He deserved that. Deserved worse. I know about Kai. Something flickered across her face. Fear, maybe. Or protectiveness. Get out. Ivy, please. Get out. She was trembling now. You don't get to say my name. You don't get to show up here after 18 months and act like you have any right to be in my life. I'm his father. You're a sperm donor, she shot back. A father is someone who shows up. Someone who's there. A door opened behind them. The clinic's manager, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, poked her head out. Is everything okay out here? Ivy didn't take her eyes off Taejun. This man was just leaving. Taejun's mind raced. He was losing this, losing his only chance to explain. You're in danger, he said quietly. You and Kai. That's why I'm here. Ivy's expression flickered. What are you talking about? There's a man named Kwon Sang-woo. 3 years ago, his wife and 6-year-old daughter died in a factory fire. A Park Industries factory. My father covered up the safety violations that caused it. Taejun's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his desperation. Kwon has spent the last 3 years systematically destroying my family, and now that I've broken my engagement, now that the Choi alliance is gone, we're vulnerable. If he finds out about you, about Kai, then you stay away from us, Ivy interrupted. You said it yourself. You're the danger. So go. Leave us alone like you did before. I can't. He already knows. The colour drained from Ivy's face. What? I had security watching you, discreetly. But Kwon has people everywhere. They would have noticed. They would have reported back. He took a step closer. Ivy's hand came up, warning him back. Please, Ivy. I know you hate me. You have every right to hate me, but let me protect you, both of you. If you're already feeling the tension, hit that subscribe button now. Because this story is about to get intense, and you won't want to miss what happens next. I don't need your protection, Ivy said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. We've been fine without you. Have you? Taejun pulled out his phone and showed her a photograph. This was taken yesterday, outside this clinic. The image showed a black sedan, the kind with tinted windows and government plates that could mean nothing or everything in Seoul. Kwon's men have been watching you for 3 days. They haven't made a move yet because they're waiting for orders, but when those orders come... He let the sentence hang. Ivy stared at the photo, her jaw working. When she looked back up at him, there were tears in her eyes, though whether from fear or rage, he couldn't tell. Why did you leave? She asked. The real reason. Because men with guns cornered you outside your apartment 18 months ago. Remember? My security team got there in time, but for 30 seconds, you were alone with them. I saw the footage. I saw the terror on your face. Taejun's voice cracked. They were sent by Kwon to send me a message. They didn't hurt you that time, but the message was clear. Anyone I cared about was a target. So I made you irrelevant. I ended things publicly, brutally, made sure Kwon's people saw that you meant nothing to me. It worked. He moved on to other tactics. You decided for me, Ivy said softly. You didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth, to let me make my own choice about the risk. No, I was a coward. I couldn't stand the thought of watching you die because of me. So you let me think you didn't love me. Let me go through pregnancy and childbirth alone. Let me nearly die bringing your son into the world, thinking his father was just another man who didn't give a damn. Her voice rose with each sentence. That's not protection, Taejun. That's cruelty. I know. He was crying now, openly, not bothering to hide it. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Ivy. But I'm here now, and I'm begging you, please let me keep you safe. She looked at him for a long moment, this man who'd broken her heart, who'd left her with nothing but medical bills and a baby, and a fury that had sustained her through the darkest nights. Then she looked at the photograph of the black sedan and thought about Kai. Innocent, and helpless and utterly dependent on her to make the right choices. "Okay," she said finally, "but this doesn't mean I forgive you. This doesn't mean anything except that I'm doing what's best for my son. I understand. And if you try to take him from me, if you use your family's power to claim custody or any of that rich people nonsense, I will fight you with everything I have." "I would never do that." "You already did worse," she said. "You left us." Taejun had no response to that, because she was right. Within an hour, they'd packed Ivy's meager belongings and were in Taejun's car, heading across Seoul toward Pyeongchang-dong. Kai had fallen asleep in a borrowed car seat, and Ivy stared out the window at the passing city lights, her arms wrapped around herself. "What's your compound like?" she asked quietly. "Big. Secure. You'll have your own room. Kai can have the room next to yours. Will your family be there?" "My father, my younger brother, some staff." Ivy was quiet for a moment. Will they be okay with us being there?" Taejun's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "My father wants to meet Kai. As for being okay with it..." He trailed off, not sure how to explain his father's coldness, the way the Park family measured worth in bloodlines and business deals and nothing else. "He doesn't approve of me," Ivy said. It wasn't a question. "He doesn't know you. If he did, don't." She turned to look at him. "Don't make promises about your family accepting me. I'm a Black American woman with no connections and no money who got pregnant out of wedlock. I'm everything people like your father despise. I know that. I just need to know if Kai will be safe." "He will be," Taejun said firmly. "I promise you that. Whatever my father thinks of you, Kai is his grandson. Park blood. He'll protect him. Even if he's half mine, even then." The Park compound was everything Ivy had imagined and worse. High walls, security cameras everywhere, men in suits with guns poorly concealed under their jackets. It looked less like a home and more like a fortress, which she supposed it was. Taejun's father was waiting in the main house, a stern-looking man in his 60s who looked at Ivy with barely concealed displeasure and at Kai with something that might have been interest. "So this is the American nurse," Park Dae-sung said in Korean. Then, switching to English that was heavily accented but clear, "And my grandson." "This is Ivy Carter," Taejun said firmly. "And yes, this is Kai, your grandson. He looks like you did at that age." Dae-sung studied the sleeping baby in Ivy's arms. His expression was unreadable. "Bring them to the East Wing. I want security doubled. If Kwon makes a move, I want to know about it before it happens." He turned to Ivy, his eyes cold. "You're here because you carry my grandson. The staff will show you respect for that reason alone. But understand, you are a guest in this house, not family. Not until Taejun marries you properly, if he chooses to do so." Ivy lifted her chin, meeting his gaze steadily despite the fear curling in her stomach. "I didn't ask to be here, and I don't need your family's approval. I just need my son to be safe." Something flickered in Dae-sung's expression, surprise maybe, or grudging respect. "You have spirit. That's something." He turned back to Taejun. "Show them to their rooms. We'll discuss security protocols in the morning." The East Wing was obscenely luxurious. Ivy's room was bigger than her entire apartment, with an attached bathroom that had a tub the size of a small pool. Kai's room was next door, already equipped with a new crib, changing table, and more toys than one baby could ever need. "I had staff prepare it," Taejun explained, hovering awkwardly in the doorway. "If there's anything else you need..." "This is too much." Ivy set Kai down gently in the crib. He didn't stir. "All of this, it's too much. You deserve it. Both of you." "No, Taejun? We deserved you. We deserved a father and a partner who didn't run away when things got hard. Money and fancy rooms don't make up for that." "You're right," he said quietly. "But it's what I can offer right now, and I'm hoping that eventually, if I prove myself, I can offer more." Ivy turned away, looking out the window at the compound's gardens. They were beautiful even at night, lit by subtle ground lights. Everything here was beautiful and controlled and perfect. Nothing like the messy, difficult reality of actual life. "I'm tired," she said. "We can talk more tomorrow." "Of course. I'll be down the hall if you need anything. 3 doors to the left." After he left, Ivy sat on the edge of the enormous bed and let herself cry for the first time in months. She cried for the exhaustion, for the fear, for the complicated mess of emotions around seeing Tai-jun again. Because here was the worst part, the part she didn't want to admit even to herself. A small, stupid corner of her heart had leapt when she'd seen him walk into that clinic. Despite everything, despite the pain and the abandonment and the struggles, part of her had been happy to see him. And that made her feel like a fool. The next few days fell into an uneasy routine. Ivy spent her time with Kai, exploring the compound's gardens, trying not to feel like a prisoner in a gilded cage. The staff was polite but distant. She caught them staring sometimes, heard the whispers in Korean that stopped when she entered a room. Tai-jun gave her space but was always nearby, watching from a distance. On the 4th morning, he knocked on her door at breakfast time with a hopeful expression that reminded her painfully of the man she'd fallen in love with. "Can we talk?" he asked. Ivy, who'd been feeding Kai mashed banana, gestured to the chair across from her. "Sure." He sat looking uncharacteristically nervous. His hair was slightly messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. "I wanted to ask about him, about Kai, if you're willing to tell me." "Tell you what?" "Everything. What was the pregnancy like? The birth?" His first smile. "All the things I missed." His voice was rough with emotion. "I know I don't have the right to ask, but I want to know my son." Ivy studied him for a long moment. She should say no. Should make him work harder for this. But when she looked at Kai, contentedly smearing banana across his face, she thought about all the moments she'd wanted to share with someone, and had no one. So she told him. About the morning sickness that had lasted all day for 4 months. About the first ultrasound where she'd heard the heartbeat and cried because she'd been so alone. About how she'd talked to her belly every night, telling the baby about his father, about Seoul, about all the things they'd do together. She told him about the terror of going into labour 6 weeks early, of being rushed to the hospital with blood pressure so high the doctors warned her she might stroke out, about the emergency cesarean and the 3 weeks in the NICU when she'd barely slept, just sat by the incubator willing Kai to keep breathing. "His lungs weren't fully developed," she said softly, watching Kai play with his toy. "They had him on a ventilator for a week. I couldn't even hold him. Just touch him through the holes in the incubator." She wiped her eyes. "The doctors said it was 50-50 whether he'd make it, and all I could think was that his father should be here, that you should know your son was fighting for his life." Tae-jun was crying now, tears streaming down his face unchecked. "Ivy, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry." "I know you are, but sorry doesn't change anything. It doesn't give us back that time." "No." He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "But maybe this can." He pulled an envelope from his jacket and set it on the table. "This is a bank account in your name. There's enough there to pay off all your debts and support you and Kai for years. It's not conditional. It's not a bribe. It's just what I should have been providing all along." Ivy stared at the envelope. "I don't want your money." "It's not for you. It's for him." Tae-jun's voice was fierce. "He deserves stability, security, and you shouldn't have to work yourself to exhaustion to provide it. I provide for my son just fine. I know you do. You're an incredible mother." He turned to face her. "But you shouldn't have to do it alone. Not anymore." Kai chose that moment to throw his banana spoon, which hit Tai-jun square in the chest. For a second, everyone froze. Then Tai-jun laughed, a real, genuine laugh that transformed his face, and picked up the spoon. Did you just throw this at me? He asked Kai in Korean, his voice playful. Kai stared at him with those dark eyes, Taejun's eyes, and then laughed too, a bubbling baby laugh that filled the room. Something inside Ivy cracked, because that laugh, that moment of pure joy was what she'd been missing, not the money or the security or the fancy compound, just someone to share the small, perfect moments with. Okay, she said quietly. Taejun looked up, surprise clear on his face. Okay? I'll accept the money. For Kai. She stood, crossing to where he stood. But I want something else too. Anything. I want you to be his father. Really be his father. Not just show up when it's convenient or when there's danger. I want you at doctor's appointments and at 3 a.m. when he's crying, and at the grocery store when he's having a meltdown. I want you in the boring, hard, exhausting parts. Can you do that? Yes. He didn't hesitate. Yes, I can do that. I want to do that. Then prove it. Over the next week, Taejun proved it. He showed up at 6 a.m. when Kai woke up crying and stayed until the baby fell back asleep. He learned how to change diapers. Badly at first, then with increasing confidence. He made bottles at the perfect temperature, read Korean picture books in a silly voice that made Kai giggle, and didn't complain when the baby spit up all over his expensive designer shirt. Ivy watched him, suspicious at first, waiting for him to give up when things got hard. But he didn't. He showed up. Every day. Every moment. And slowly, so slowly she almost didn't notice it happening, the wall around her heart began to crack. It happened on the 8th night. Kai was teething and inconsolable, screaming at a pitch that made Ivy's head pound. She'd been walking him for 2 hours, trying everything, and was on the verge of tears herself when Taejun appeared in the doorway. Can I try? He asked. She handed Kai over, too exhausted to argue. Taejun took the baby and began walking in slow circles around the room, humming something low and rhythmic. A Korean lullaby, maybe. After a few minutes, Kai's screams subsided to whimpers. After 10 minutes, he was quiet. After 15, he was asleep. Taejun gently placed Kai in the crib, then turned to find Ivy crying silently. Hey, he said softly, crossing to her. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I don't know. She wiped her face. You're good with him. Better than I thought you'd be. I'm learning from the best. He tentatively reached out and brushed a tear from her cheek. Ivy, His words were cut off by his phone buzzing. He glanced at the screen and his expression went dark. What is it? Ivy asked. We need to go. Now. What? Why? But Taejun was already moving, scooping up Kai with practiced ease. Jin-ho just got word. Kwon knows you're here. He's planning something. We need to get you to a safer location. I thought this place was secure. It is, but nowhere is completely safe from Kwon. Not when he's determined. Taejun's voice was grim. Please, Ivy. Trust me. They made it as far as the compound's main gate before everything went to hell. The black van came out of nowhere, blocking their path. Men poured out armed and wearing masks. Taejun's security team engaged immediately, but there were too many of them. Stay in the car, Taejun shouted, putting himself between Ivy and the attackers. But the van's side door slid open and someone threw a canister into their vehicle. Smoke began pouring out, thick and choking. Ivy grabbed Kai, covering his face with her jacket, trying to shield him from the gas. She felt hands on her, pulling her from the car. She fought, screaming, kicking at anyone who came close. But there were too many of them. They pulled her away from the car, away from Taejun, who was fighting 3 men at once, away from the compound's walls. The last thing she saw before a hood was pulled over her head was Taejun's face, bloody and desperate, screaming her name. Then everything went black. Ivy woke up in darkness, her head pounding. The hood was still over her face and her hands were bound behind her back. She could hear Kai crying nearby. Thank God he was alive, but she couldn't see him, couldn't reach him. Don't bother struggling, a voice said in accented English. Male, older. The ropes are quite secure. The hood was yanked off. Ivy blinked in the sudden light, her eyes adjusting to reveal a sparse room that looked like an old warehouse. Kai was across from her in a portable crib, crying but seemingly unharmed. And between them stood a man in his 50s with greying hair and eyes that held nothing but cold fury. "Kwon Sang-woo, I presume," Ivy said, trying to keep her voice steady. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Very good. I see Park Tae-jun warned you about me. What do you want?" "What do I want?" Kwon's smile vanished. "I want my wife back. I want my daughter back. I want the last 3 years of my life back. But since I can't have any of those things, I'll settle for making Park Dae-sung feel the same pain I've felt. I have nothing to do with whatever happened to your family. No. But you have everything to do with his son, and his son has everything to do with him." Kwon pulled out a phone and held it up so she could see the screen. It showed a video feed of the park compound. "Tae-jun is on his way here now. He'll trade himself for you and the child. And when he does, I'll kill all 3 of you while his father watches. Just like I watched my family burn." Ivy's blood ran cold. "You're going to kill a baby to get revenge on his grandfather." "His grandfather killed my daughter. She was 6 years old. 6. Do you know what it's like to bury a child?" Kwon's voice broke. "Do you know what it's like to watch your wife die from her burns 3 days later, after she made you promise to get justice?" "I'm sorry for your loss," Ivy said, and she meant it. "I can't imagine that pain. But killing us won't bring them back." "No, but it will make the Parks understand what they took from me." Before Ivy could respond, there was a commotion outside. Shouting, gunfire, then silence. The warehouse door burst open and Tae-jun stumbled in, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. Jin-ho and 2 security men were behind him, weapons drawn. "Let them go, Kwon," Tae-jun said, his voice deadly calm despite the gun pointed at his chest. "This is between our families. They're innocent." "Innocent?" Kwon laughed bitterly. "My wife was innocent. My daughter was innocent. They died because your father cut corners, because he valued profit over safety. There is no innocent in this war. My father made those choices, not me. If you want justice, take me. Kill me. But let Ivy and Kai go. If your heart is pounding right now, drop a like and comment what you think is going to happen, because the next few minutes are about to change everything." "Oh, I'm going to kill you," Kwon said. "But first, I want you to watch them die. I want you to feel what I felt." He raised his gun toward Kai's crib. Everything happened in slow motion. Tae-jun lunged forward with a shout. Jin-ho fired at Kwon, but missed as the older man dodged. Kwon's gun swung toward Tae-jun, then back toward Kai, his finger tightening on the trigger. Tae-jun threw himself in front of the crib, his arms spread wide, shielding his son with his body. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Tae-jun's body jerked as the bullet tore through his chest. He stood there for a moment, swaying, his eyes locked on Ivy's face. Then his knees buckled and he collapsed. "No!" Ivy's scream tore from her throat. "No, no, no!" Jin-ho fired again, this time hitting Kwon in the shoulder. The older man went down, his gun clattering across the floor. More security poured in, securing the scene, but Ivy couldn't process any of it. All she could see was Tae-jun on the floor, blood pooling beneath him, his chest barely moving. Someone cut her restraints and she stumbled forward, falling to her knees beside him, her hands pressed against his chest, trying to stop the bleeding, but there was so much blood. "Stay with me," she sobbed. "Please, Tae-jun, please stay with me. Kai needs you. I need you." His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Kai, is he... He's safe. You saved him. You saved us both." Tears streamed down her face. "Now you have to save yourself. You have to fight." "Love you," he whispered, blood on his lips. "Always loved you. I love you too. I love you so much. So you can't leave. You hear me? You can't leave us again. Sorry." So sorry. No, don't apologize. Just breathe. Just keep breathing. But his eyes were closing, his chest barely rising. Where are the fucking paramedics? Ivy screamed at Jinho. They're coming. 2 minutes out. He doesn't have 2 minutes. She bent over Taijun, pressing harder on his chest, whispering in his ear. You promised me. You promised you'd show up. Every day, every moment. You don't get to break that promise. You don't get to leave us again. Behind her, Kai was crying, the sound cutting through everything. The sound of a baby who needed his father. The sound that seemed to reach Taijun even through the darkness pulling at him, because his eyes opened just a fraction. Go to him, he breathed. He needs you. He needs both of us. The paramedics burst in then, pushing Ivy aside, working on Taijun with practiced efficiency. They loaded him onto a stretcher, shouting medical jargon she only partially understood. Ivy grabbed Kai from his crib, holding him close as they followed the stretcher out to the ambulance. Jinho drove them to the hospital, breaking every traffic law. In the back seat, Ivy held Kai and prayed to every god she could think of, even though she hadn't prayed since her mother died when she was 16. Please, please let him live. Please. The surgery took 7 hours. 7 hours of Ivy pacing the waiting room with Kai in her arms, Jinho sitting stoically in a chair, and Taejun's father arriving halfway through with an expression Ivy couldn't read. Is he alive? Park Dae-sung asked. They're operating, Ivy said. That's all we know. He nodded once, then sat down across from her. For a long moment they didn't speak. Then, my son loves you very much. Ivy looked up, surprised. Sir, I didn't understand it. Didn't want to understand it. He looked older suddenly, the harsh lines of his face softened by something that might have been regret. I thought love was weakness. I spent my whole life believing that, but watching him throw himself in front of a bullet for his son. His voice cracked. That's not weakness. That's the only thing that's real. He's a good man, Ivy said quietly. Better than he thinks he is. Because of you. You made him better. No. I just reminded him of who he already was. Before Dae-sung could respond, the surgical doors opened. A doctor in blood-stained scrubs walked out, pulling off her mask. Family of Park Tae-jun. They all stood. The surgery went well. We were able to remove the bullet and repair the damage to his lung. He lost a lot of blood, and the next 48 hours will be critical, but... The doctor smiled tiredly. He's a fighter. He has a good chance. Ivy's knees went weak with relief. Jinho caught her elbow, steadying her. Can I see him? She asked. He's in recovery now. He'll be unconscious for a while, but you can sit with him if you'd like. Ivy followed the doctor down sterile white hallways, Kai sleeping against her shoulder. They led her to a private room where Taejun lay in a bed, surrounded by machines, his chest bandaged, his face pale. But he was breathing. His chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm that was the most beautiful thing Ivy had ever seen. She sank into the chair beside his bed, shifting Kai in her arms, and took Taejun's hand in hers. You did it, she whispered. You showed up. You saved us. Over the next 2 days, Ivy barely left Taejun's side. She dozed in the uncomfortable hospital chair, fed Kai, changed his diapers, and kept vigil. Jinho brought her food and fresh clothes. Taejun's father visited twice, each time staying for only a few minutes, but his expression grew softer each time he looked at Kai. On the 3rd day, Taejun woke up, his eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then finding Ivy's face. She was reading to Kai from a picture book, her voice soft, and didn't notice immediately that he was conscious. Ivy? He rasped. She looked up and the book fell from her hands. Oh, thank God. You're awake. You're actually awake. Kai? Safe. Right here. She shifted so he could see the baby playing with a toy on her lap. Because of you. Taejun's eyes filled with tears. I thought I wouldn't make it. Thought I'd broken my promise. You didn't. You're here. Ivy set Kai down gently in the hospital crib they'd brought in and moved to Taejun's bedside. You're here and you're going to recover, and we're all going to be okay. I love you, he said. I should have said it every day we were together, should have said it first thing 18 months ago. I love you, Ivy Carter. I love you too. She leaned down carefully, mindful of his injuries, and kissed his forehead. I love you too, you ridiculous man. Marry me. Ivy pulled back, staring at him. What? Marry me. Not because of Kai, not because of my family or security or any practical reason. Marry me because I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life showing up for you. He tried to sit up, winced, gave up. I don't have a ring. I'm in a hospital bed. This is possibly the worst proposal in history, but I can't wait another second. Marry me. Ivy laughed through her tears. You're insane. You just got shot. You're on pain medication. You're not thinking clearly. I've never been more clear about anything. His hand found hers. You're it for me. You always have been. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. He smiled, and despite the pallor of his face and the machines beeping around them, it was the most beautiful smile she'd ever seen. Kai made a noise from his crib, demanding attention. Ivy picked him up and brought him close so Tae-jun could see him properly. Hi, buddy, Tae-jun whispered, reaching up to touch Kai's tiny hand. Kai grabbed his finger, holding tight. Sorry I scared you. I'm okay now. I'm going to be okay. The doctors kept Tae-jun in the hospital for 2 more weeks. During that time, Jin-ho came by with news. Kwon Sang-woo had been arrested and would face charges for kidnapping, attempted murder, and a litany of other crimes. His organization was crumbling without his leadership. The parks were safe. And Kwon? Tae-jun asked. In custody, maximum security. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Jin-ho paused. Do you want to press for more? We have enough evidence to ensure he never sees daylight again. Tae-jun was quiet for a long moment, looking at Ivy and Kai. No, he's already lost everything that mattered to him. I won't take his life too. Let the courts decide his fate. 5 days after Kwon's arrest, Tae-jun finally asked the question that had been eating at him. Have you been to see him? Kwon? Ivy, who was feeding Kai, looked up in surprise. No. Why would I? I did. Yesterday. Jin-ho arranged it. Tae-jun. I needed to understand. Needed to hear it from him. He shifted in the bed, still moving carefully. His wife's name was Min-hee. His daughter was Soo-ah. The factory fire happened because my father ignored repeated safety violations to save money. Kwon tried to sue, tried to get justice through legal means, but my father buried the evidence, paid off officials, made it disappear. Ivy set down the baby bottle. That's horrible. It is, and it explains everything. Tae-jun's voice was heavy. He's not some monster. He's just a man who lost everything and couldn't find any other way to make the pain stop. That doesn't excuse what he did to us, to you. No, but it helps me understand why. He looked at her. I told him I was sorry for what my father did, for his loss. He didn't say anything, just stared at me. But I think maybe it helped. A little. Ivy came to sit beside him on the bed, careful not to jostle his injuries. You're a better person than I am. I don't know if I could forgive someone who shot you. I'm not forgiving him. I'm just choosing not to let hatred consume me the way it consumed him. Because I have too much to live for now. He pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. I have you. I have Kai. I have a second chance I don't deserve, but I'm going to take anyway. 3 weeks after the shooting, Tae-jun was released from the hospital. He moved slowly, his chest still healing, but he was alive and getting stronger every day. If you've made it this far in the story, do me a favor and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me what you thought, because this ending is going to be worth it. The first thing he did was move out of the park compound. He found a modest house in a quiet neighborhood in Seongbuk-dong, still secure but nothing like the fortress he'd grown up in. Big enough for a family, with a yard where Kai could play. Ivy was hesitant at first. Are you sure? Your father. My father understands. We talked while I was in the hospital. Really talked. Maybe for the first time in my life. Taejun took her hand. He knows I need to build my own life, my own family, with you. They moved in on a Saturday. It was just the three of them and Jinho, carrying boxes and setting up furniture and trying to figure out where everything should go. Kai crawled around the empty rooms, delighted by all the space. That night, after Kai was asleep in his new room and the last box was unpacked, Taejun found Ivy standing on the back porch, looking out at the small garden. "You okay?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. She leaned back against him. "Yeah, I think I am. It's just surreal. A month ago, I was 3 months behind on rent. Now I'm living in a house with a yard and a man who loves me, and our son is safe and—" Her voice caught. "Is this real? Or am I going to wake up back in that apartment?" "It's real." He turned her to face him. "This is real. We're real. And I'm never leaving you again. You're stuck with me." "Good." She pulled him down for a kiss, gentle because his ribs were still healing. "Because I'm done running. I'm done being afraid. This is home now. Your home." They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony at a traditional hanok they rented for the day. Ivy wore a simple white dress and later changed into a beautiful hanbok that Taejun's mother had worn at her wedding, a gift from his father that had made both of them cry. Minji came to the wedding, smiling and genuinely happy for them. She'd started her own business, a gallery in Gangnam, and was dating an artist she'd met at a show. "You look beautiful," she told Ivy before the ceremony. "Both of you. Happy." "Thank you for being here," Ivy said. "I know it can't be easy." "It's not, but it's getting easier." Minji squeezed her hand. "You're good for him. You make him brave." Jinho stood as Taejun's best man, tears streaming down his usually stoic face during the vows. Kai, now 14 months old and walking, toddled down the aisle with the rings, getting distracted halfway and sitting down to play with his shoes until everyone laughed and Taejun had to walk up to get him. "I promise to show up," Taejun said during his vows, his voice steady and sure. "Every day, every moment, in the big moments and the small ones, I promise to be the father Kai deserves and the partner you need. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life." Ivy's vows were simpler. "I promise to trust you, to let you in, to build this life with you, whatever comes. I promise to love you, even when you're being ridiculous, especially when you're being ridiculous." When the officiant pronounced them married, Taejun kissed her like it was the first time and the last time and every time in between. Kai, in Jinho's arms, clapped his hands and shouted, "Mama, Dada!" which made everyone laugh and cry. The reception was small and intimate, just the people who mattered most. Taejun's father gave a short toast that surprised everyone with its warmth and emotional honesty. "I spent most of my life believing that power came from control, from keeping emotions locked away, from never showing weakness," Park Dae-sung said, his voice rough. "My son taught me I was wrong. He taught me that real strength comes from love, from vulnerability, from being willing to die for the people you love." He raised his glass. "To Taejun and Ivy. May your love be stronger than any challenge you face." As the sun set, casting golden light across the garden, Taejun and Ivy danced their first dance as husband and wife, while Kai ran circles around them with Jinho chasing after him. "Happy?" Taejun murmured against Ivy's hair. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she replied. "You? The happiest I've ever been." Later that night, after the guests had left and Kai was asleep in his travel crib, Taejun and Ivy stood on the balcony of their hotel suite, looking out at the lights of Seoul spread below them. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't seen us that day?" Ivy asked. "If the light had changed faster, if you'd looked away?" "All the time," Taejun admitted. "And it terrifies me. Because I almost missed this. Almost missed knowing my son. Almost missed the chance to fix what I'd broken. But you didn't. You saw us. You came back. I'll always come back, he pulled her close. No matter what happens, no matter where life takes us, I'll always find my way back to you. Ivy turned in his arms, standing on her toes to kiss him. I love you, Park Tae-jun. I love you, Park Ivy. He grinned. That's going to take some getting used to. You better get used to it quick. You're stuck with me now. Best decision I ever made. I'm curious about something, Ivy said. Why do you have this dove tattoo? My late mom used to love doves, so when she passed, I got it to remember her every single day I look at myself in the mirror. Tae-jun replied, reminiscing of the past. They went inside as the city lights twinkled below, the sounds of Seoul fading into the background. Behind them, in the portable crib, Kai slept peacefully, dreaming baby dreams, safe in the knowledge that both his parents were there, not because they had to be, but because they chose to be. Every single day, if this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe for more beautiful stories like this. Drop a comment and tell me what part got you the most. Was it the warehouse scene? The proposal? The ending? I want to know. Because your stories, your comments, your support, that's what keeps me creating. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And remember, it's never too late to show up for the people you love. See you in the next story.